People are saying Colombia's president survived a murder attempt, and the reason it's exploding is because it comes at the worst possible time. The country is heading into a high-stakes election season with rising violence, kidnappings, attacks on political figures, and armed groups trying to control territory and intimidate the state. Let's start with what we actually know. On Tuesday, February 10, President Gustavo Petro spoke during a cabinet meeting that was broadcast publicly, and in that setting, he said he had just escaped what he described as an assassination attempt. The core incident, according to Petro himself, happened the night before during a helicopter trip to the Caribbean coast. He said the helicopter was unable to land where it was supposed to because security feared people were waiting to shoot at it, and he described the aircraft diverting and spending hours out at sea before landing somewhere else. That's the attempt, as he tells it. Not necessarily shots fired, but a credible threat to shoot down or attack the helicopter at the landing point, serious enough to force an emergency diversion. That distinction matters because in the information war around politics, people will instantly jump to, they tried to kill him, versus, he's exaggerating. Right now, the most responsible framing is this. Petro claims the attempt was real, and the details he provided revolve around a thwarted attack threat that changed his flight plan. He also tied it to something he has been saying for a while, that criminal networks and drug traffickers have allegedly been plotting against him. That's not new in Colombian politics, but it's a major escalation when the sitting president says on camera that he just avoided being killed. So why is this happening now? Because Colombia is in a pressure cooker. Over the last months, violence linked to armed groups has been surging in different regions, and political activity is increasingly being met with intimidation. Look at the broader pattern. In early February, there was an ambush against the security convoy of Senator Jairo Castellanos in the Arauca region, and 2 bodyguards were killed. Reports pointed to armed groups operating in that zone, and authorities investigated possible responsibility by the Yamelin. That single incident already signaled something dangerous. Political campaigns are becoming targets again in places where the state's control is contested. Then just today, another major incident hit the headlines. Indigenous Senator Ada Quilquem was kidnapped for several hours in Cauca and later released. The reporting described armed men retaining her while she traveled in a high-risk area, and authorities and indigenous organizations mobilized to find her. That kind of kidnapping against a sitting senator screams instability. And we can't forget what happened in 2025. Presidential candidate Miguel Uribe Iturbe was shot at a campaign rally and later died. A political assassination that shook the country and raised fears about a return to earlier eras of electoral violence. That event hangs over the entire 2026 race like a warning sign. Political violence isn't theoretical anymore. So when Petro says he escaped an attempt on his life, the claim lands inside a context where attacks are already happening to politicians and their security details. Now, the big question everyone is asking, was this a confirmed assassination attempt or a security scare framed as one? At this moment, public reporting is still centered on Petro's statement and the circumstances he described. Helicopter unable to land due to threat of gunfire, diversion offshore, arrival elsewhere. Some outlets attribute the broader allegation to drug traffickers or criminal networks, but the public details of who, where exactly, and how it was planned are not yet fully laid out in official evidence that the public can independently verify. That means 2 things can be true at once. First, the threat can be credible and serious. Security teams don't divert presidential aircraft for fun. Second, this moment will be politicized instantly because Colombia is polarized and every security incident becomes ammunition. If you support Petro, you'll likely see this as proof that armed groups and criminal networks are trying to decapitate the government, sabotage reforms, and intimidate the state before elections. If you oppose Petro, you may suspect he's using the language of assassination to rally supporters, distract from controversies, or justify tougher actions. But zoom out. Regardless of the politics, a president diverting a helicopter for fear of gunfire is a national security alarm. So what happens next? There are a few concrete things to watch. 1, the investigation. If the government provides operational details, location, route, intelligence sources, arrests, seized weapons, intercepted communications, that will determine whether this story hardens into a confirmed plot or stays in the realm of credible threat. 2, the security posture. We should expect tighter protocols around travel, events, and regional movement. especially in departments where armed groups have influence and where campaigns are active. 3. The political aftershocks. In Colombia, these moments can reshape the entire election narrative. Security becomes the main issue overnight, and every candidate starts talking like a wartime leader. Also watch how armed groups react. In recent years, Colombia has been balancing between military pressure and negotiation efforts with different illegal armed actors. When violence spikes around elections, it pressures the government to choose. Do you double down on negotiation, or do you pivot to hard security? Either direction has consequences, and for regular Colombians, the biggest fear is simple. The country has lived through eras where campaigns were marked by assassinations, kidnappings, and terror. People remember what it looks like when politics is decided by bullets instead of ballots. This is why the kidnapping of a senator, the ambush on a security convoy, and now the president's claim of a foiled attack all feel connected. It's not one isolated story. It's a pattern of political life being dragged back into violent intimidation. Now here's the final uncomfortable truth. Even if Petro's claim is 100% accurate, the bigger story is that Colombia's security environment is deteriorating enough that this kind of threat is plausible. And if the claim is exaggerated, that still tells you something. Because leaders don't use this language unless they believe the public mood can accept it. Either way, trust is collapsing, and that's what criminals and armed groups exploit best. So the real question for the next days isn't just, did someone try to kill the president? The question is, can Colombia protect democratic competition from armed intimidation as the 2026 election approaches? Because when senators are kidnapped, bodyguards are being killed, and the president says he had to flee offshore to avoid being shot down, that's not normal politics.